Who's the dumbest person you've ever met? It's not uncommon as a teacher to have students who are a bit behind the curve in certain aspects, but 99.99999% of the time they are keen on something. They might not understand how to identify a noun or what theme is, but they somehow know how to make a mean plate of nachos. You learn pretty quick to not judge fish for their tree climbing ability. Yeah, no. Thought this was the rule when I was teaching until I met Kevin. Kevin isn't his real name, but it doesn't matter because he can't spell it anyway. Kevin was a student of mine during my last year of teaching. He came to my classroom with very little to show for his academic past. He had moved a few times and thus was missing a lot of typical test scores that we used to try and park their ability. Don't worry, it was a park. We didn't make major decisions until we actually had a chance to talk and work with a student for a bit. I thought that's fine. I'll just do some one-on-one with Kevin and see what's up. One-on-one with Kevin was like conversing with someone who'd forgotten everything in a freak, if not impossible, amnesia incident. There was no evidence that he had learned anything past the 2nd grade, and now he was in 9th grade. Flabbergasted, I figured we needed to get more serious with this. If he was going to be in my class, I needed to know why and how. I decided to meet with him, his guidance counselor, his parents, and another teacher to see what was really going on. This is where it all became clear. It was by some incredible fluke that his family hadn't been wiped off the face of the earth years ago. Odds are his entire heritage was based on blind luck and some type of sick divine intervention that saves his family every time a threat presents itself. Kevin was the genetic pinnacle of this null achievement. Even my instructional lead, a woman who could find a redeeming tray in a Balrog, failed to see any reason this kid or his family should be alive today. So here's a list of events that made it abundantly clear that God exists, and he's laughing uncontrollably. Kevin frequently forgot when/where class was. On more than one occasion, I had to retrieve him from other classrooms. Kevin ate an entire 24-pack of crayons, puked, and then did it again the next day. This is 9th grade. I have no idea where he got crayons. Kevin's dad wrote tuition checks and mailed them to me, his English teacher. This was a public school. When I gave it back to Kevin, voided, to give to his dad with a brief note explaining that this is a public school, Kevin got in trouble for trying to spend it at 711 after school. Kevin was removed from the culinary arts program after leaving a cutting board on the gas stove and starting a fire twice. Kevin threw his lunch at the school resource officer and tried to run away. He ran into a door and insisted it wasn't him. Kevin stole my phone during class. I called it. It rang. He denied that it was ringing. Not that it wasn't his. Not that he did it. No, he denied that the phone was actually ringing. He tried it 3 times before the end of the year. Kevin's mom could never remember which school he went to. She missed several meetings because she drove to other schools, none of which he ever went to. Kevin tased himself in the neck before a football game. Kevin kept a bottle of orange Kool-Aid in his backpack for about 4 months. He thought it would turn into alcohol. He drank it during homeroom and threw up. Kevin said the N-word a lot. Kevin was white. The high school was 84% black. Kevin got beat up a lot. Kevin stole another student's iPhone and tried to sell it back to them. Kevin didn't understand that his grade was dependent on tests, quizzes, homework, class walk, and participation. Kevin finished his first semester with a 3% average. He tried to bribe me with $11. Kevin spit on a girl and said you should get out of those wet clothes. The girl was the Spanish student teacher. Kevin didn't know dogs and cats were different animals. Kevin asked a girl to prom. He was in 9th grade and freshmen don't go to prom by asking for her phone number and then texting her his address. Kevin got gum in his hair constantly. Kevin regularly tried to cheat on assignments by knocking the pile over, grabbing one before I had picked them all up, and then writing its name on it wherever there was room. Kevin had several allergies, but neither his parents nor he could remember what they were. They were very concerned that the holiday party at high school, we don't have those, would have peanuts. When they finally got a doctor's note, he was allergic to amoxicillin. Kevin and his parents took a trip to Nassau. How the frick did they even get airline tickets and forgot all their luggage at home? I didn't believe him when he told me until I talked to him mom, Who told me first thing when I saw her at the B weekly meeting. Kevin's grandfather apparently died in a chainsaw accident. I can only assume God was looking the other way that day. I'm torn between this cannot be real and you can't make this shook up. Kevin and his world were very real. He was simultaneously everything wrong and everything right with the world. He was a testament to the fact that anyone can do anything. Last I heard, he wanted to join the Air Force. He'll go out one day to join the Air Force and wind up in the Navy 8 years later when we hear about the first aircraft carrier to ever get stuck on the Great Barrier Reef. We'll know it was Kevin. He's like Forrest Gump, somehow. Forrest was dumb, but amazing things happened to him. Kevin is dumb. Terrible things happen to him, but he somehow survives. Watch him get fired for crashing a jet and then refusing it happened. Oh god. I had a neighbor that fits this description perfectly. Once dug a trap hole in my friend's backyard and covered it with leaves, then proceeded to fall into it and we had to pull him out. Would repeatedly climb the tree in his front yard all the way to the top, then fall out of it every time. Except the one time that he didn't, and we had to call the fire department because he couldn't remember how to climb down. Was riding his bike to our house in swim shorts with a towel around his neck. Leaned too far over, and the towel got stuck in the spokes. He flipped over the handlebars and the bike flipped over and landed on top of him. We wouldn't let him near our trampoline because we feared for his and our lives. He's now a high-ranking army man. Edit he was on leave and came back to visit last winter. His car slid and he took out my neighbor's mailbox and we had to help pull him out of the ditch. It wasn't even icy. It terrifies me that they let him touch gums. I think I must have gone to high school with Kevin's cousin. We'll call her Kelly. Kelly also found it difficult to remember where her classes were. We went to a tiny school. There were 4 possible classrooms to choose from. She showed up on the weekends sometimes. Kelly pulled the fire alarm because she wanted to know what it would do. Not once, not twice, 3 separate times. And the real kicker, it took Kelly until 10th grade to realize she was left-handed. She had always just thought her left hand was her right hand because it was the one she wrote with. Sounds like his other cousin in my class, let's say, Kel. Last year, when she was 16, she did not know that the sun and the moon were 2 separate things. Like, she was genuinely shocked when she discovers it in science class. The worst thing is that this grade is like a few years prior to university. I accidentally convinced my 22-year-old girlfriend that the moon was the backside of the sun. Kevin, a diagnosis, not a name. The guy who wound up wanting to fight me because I was explaining to him that calamari was Italian for squid. He insisted people do not ever eat squid. The delightful conversation with a man who insisted all zebras in Africa are extinct, although I had just returned from there with photographic evidence from just 2 weeks before. I had to explain to a girl that penguins were not fish. I had to explain to another girl who I told this story to why the first girl was not correct. I had to explain to my middle school science teacher that penguins were, in fact, birds, not mammals. That was a difficult class to deal with. I feel I had an English teacher that didn't believe in gravity. A college student I had to explain why the earth revolved around the sun and was not stationary, and had 2 science teachers that didn't believe in evolution. Oh, place where I live, you are fun. Brother's girlfriend. Did you know Poland was the only country not affected by World War II? Hitler wasn't a bad guy, they just gave him the wrong job. I like cows. They are cute and they have big eyes, but I don't like horses. They are big and they look like cows. Wine that comes in plastic is fancier than wine that comes in glass bottles because plastic has more technology. As my brother is cooking her a filet mignon, she looks at the steak in the pan for a minute before asking, "Is that the whole fish?" A girl in my class believed that Neanderthals ate ice and cheese. Bonus, she didn't know eggs came from chickens. She thought they were manufactured in a factory. I worked with this girl last summer who was beyond dumb. At first it was amusing, but then it just got really sad. We were talking about Nelson Mandela being really sick. This was in June, and she said, "Well, I sure hope she'll be okay. Her music is so good." She thought WWII was between America and Africa. She thought potatoes could only grow in America, and when asked what her boyfriend's name was, she said I can't really pronounce it, so I just call him Mike. He spells it like Michael. There was a girl in my high school who thought rhinos were the last remaining dinosaurs. Oh, and she was shocked when she found out that rice came from plants. Smart girl, that one. I know a girl who genuinely believes that gorillas and giraffes are not real and the ones at the local zoo are just people in costumes. I said that China was an Asia and 4 people in my class, including the teacher, were astonished. But China is a country. I had to explain continents. I had to explain to my mother that Egyptians aren't the same as Indians. India is not a continent. The differences between Hindi and Arabic aren't like the differences between British English and American English. They are 2 completely different languages. Egypt isn't in the Middle East. It's not even in Asia. I'm not a geography expert. I went to 3rd and 9th grade. Met a girl who said she wanted a nose job, specifically to get rid of her nostrils completely. To close up her nostrils. A girl in my school was using a calculator on a test and typed in the math problem in wrong. She then proceeded to type syntax error as an answer. I had an experience like that with a girl who said she couldn't do 890 plus 689 on a calculator. This is how the conversation went. Me, you need help? Huh, no, this is a problem that can't be done on the calculator. Me, why not? Well, I was searching for a while and I can't find the 890 or the 689 key on the calculator. This is the same girl who on the first of geometry and said one of my friends told me that geometry is something you say when you turn into a tree. Geometry.